This episode is brought to you by Microsoft Azure. Turn your ideas into reality with an Azure free account. Get everything you need to develop apps across cloud and hybrid environments, scale workloads, create cloud-connected mobile experiences, and so much more. Discover what you can create with popular services free for 12 months. Learn more at azure.com. That's AZURE.com. And sign up for a free account to start building in the cloud today.
At BlueNile.com, you can find endless ways to make your moments sparkle. From classic and timeless jewelry gifts to creating the custom engagement ring of her dreams. All at prices you won't find at a traditional jeweler. And right now, you can save up to 40% on fine jewelry and 25% on engagement ring settings during the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale, going on now. Go to BlueNile.com to shop the Blue Nile Anniversary Sale and save up to 40%. That's BlueNile.com.
This episode is brought to you by Experian. Are you paying for subscriptions you don't use but can't find the time or energy to cancel them? Experian could cancel unwanted subscriptions for you, saving you an average of $270 per year and plenty of time. Download the Experian app. Results will vary. Not all subscriptions are eligible. Savings are not guaranteed. Paid membership with connected payment account required.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Henrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
Sensational form, thank you.
Good stuff. It's good to hear. I'm feeling chipper myself today. Karl, still no movement on the incomings in the transfer market at Liverpool. It does appear like the Mamardashvili deal is edging closer. Fee seems to be agreed. It's just a matter now of payment terms with Peter Lim acting like Peter Lim and demanding all of the money up front. We'll see what happens, but it does look like that one will get done. We've had some outgoings, though, and Bobby Clark has completed a permanent move to Red Bull Salzburg. It looks like Harvey Blair is on his way to Portsmouth, and today we've had confirmation that Sepp Vandenberg has joined Brentford, a fee over 20 million plus fee 5 million in add-ons. A very good return on a player that we paid 3.5 million for 5 years ago, who played a sum total of 4 games for us and has largely just spent his time contracted to the club out on loan. So we have gotten over 50 million from Brentford if the add-ons trigger. I think it's around 55 million from Brentford for Fabio Carvalho and Sepp Vandenberg. Plus we have sizable sell-on clauses on both of them. All in all, Karl, I understand people's frustration about the lack of incomings, but we're selling very well this summer.
Indeed. There was a period in Edward's first spell, let's say, where we did really, really well, basically creating our transfer funds by selling players who impacted the first team ability in absolutely no way. Like, there was a big period there where, people like, obviously, Ibe and Brad Smith were like the faces of that as such, but there were plenty of others as well. Marko Grujic was a good example of that, and a handful of others along the way who would always raise us like somewhere in the region of 20 to 40 million every summer, and it wouldn't affect the first team at all. It'd be players who'd gone out on loan or we'd bought really young in their careers, that kind of thing. And that's a really, really important and valid way for a club like Liverpool, which is not overspending and overexerting itself in the transfer market every year, to raise additional funds from. I think this is really, really good work, to be honest. It's not in any way, shape or form two outgoing deals there that are going to harm Liverpool. Like, at best, you would say Sepp van den Berg could have edged his way ahead of Kwanzaa, let's say, as a centre-back option, if he performed really, really well, or if Konate had an issue or something like that. But you're still looking at Konate picking up some sort of absence, Joe Gomez either leaving or being absent or used at fullback, and then Kwanzaa taking a step down from his form of last season before Sepp becomes a first-team consideration, really. So I think it's a really good move. Again, we've got the sell-on fees, which, as we've seen with Solanke, they don't have to be within a year or two that we get that money. It can be a few years down the line and we get a big, big chunk back. So
yeah, I mean,
really
Solanke left in January of 2019. And I think for most of his time away, we've all thought, well, we scammed them getting 21 million for him. But now he's moved for 65 million and we've made another 8 or 9 million off it. So we've gotten nearly 30 million for Solanke. And if Carvalho and Sepp do well at Brentford, we'll make even more money off them. And that's the purpose of signing some of these players. You know, we buy them for 3 million in Solanke's case, 3.5 in Sepp's case, 5 in Carvalho's case, and we sell them for over 20 million. And that is very, very good business for us. And you look at it this summer thus far, you've got Carvalho gone, Sepp gone, and Clark gone in terms of sales. You've obviously got the few players that were released and others that are gone on loan. Others who might be sold, Tyler Morton, potentially another £20 million player there. Ben Doak, there's a lot of talk that he could go on a permanent deal similar enough to Bobby Clark. Like, that could potentially be around 80 million in cash coming in for players who, between them, Carvalho, Vandenberg, Clark, Doak and Morton, played just over 500 minutes last year and made little to no contribution in the league. That is exactly what we should be doing. If of all the players that have left this summer, Matip, Thiago, Clark, Adrian, Musalowski, Fraundorf, Lewis, Arejo, Carvalho, Kimetio, Williams, Stevenson, Rosick, Ramsey, Pumas and Chambers, either sold or loaned, they played 1,546 minutes combined between Sepp, Ben Doak, Cade Gordon, Stefan Bajcetic, Tyler Morton and Harvey Blair, who it looked like will leave either, sale or permanent. They played 448. So between all of them, do they include Owen Beck there? I think I did. It's 448 including Beck. Between all of them, they played less than 2,000 minutes last season, which is nothing. In the grand scheme of things, it's nothing. It's just over 2 games for a team of 11 players. So if we were to bin off the League Cup and just throw it in the first round and focus in on the League and the Champions League, whatever about the FA Cup in the second half of the season, but for now, not taking that competition seriously will not only free up those 2,000 minutes that we're losing, they'll also free up the games that people are concerned about in the Champions League. You know, when people say, oh, we'll play more games than ever this year because the Champions League is expanded, just don't take the League Cup seriously. Just bin it off, like we did in 18-19 and 19-20 when we went on and had the best success we've had in the last 30 years. If we do that this year and just bin that competition off, it frees up not only the ex-Champions League games, but those minutes that we're losing. And you also have to factor in all likelihood, Trent plays more this year than he did last year. Gravenberch plays more this year than he did last year. Szoboszlai plays more this year than he did last year. Jones should play more this year. Jota should play more this year. Ibu sat on the bench for 11 games last year in the league alone, Carlin didn't play. So there's more minutes there for him as well. So there was an idea that Ibu missed a lot of last season injured. He didn't. He was on the bench in a bunch of games because Matip was playing and then Kwanzaa was playing late in the season. So there's definitely more minutes there for Ibu. So everything we've done so far hasn't weakened the squad. It's weakened the depth behind the backups. But
even there, I would say maybe it hasn't, because really you're doing there is letting the next group of 18,
young
19,
players
20-year-olds come through and take their place.
Yeah, you're creating minutes for Nalo, you're creating some minutes for Trainiani, and whoever else is going to come along, you know? Maybe this Alvin Ayman kid that we've just signed today from Wolves for $2 million, maybe there's a third round League Cup game for him. You know, whatever round we come into it, whatever that first round of that competition is, maybe he gets minutes off the bench there. Same thing with the kid we have coming in from Chelsea. You know, they're the next generation to come along. And again, with all of these players, if the decision is made in 2 or 3 years that, you know, we don't think they're going to be good enough to contribute for us in the next 2 to 3 years, if we sell them and make a good profit, absolutely fine. There's no issue with that.
Yeah, I mean, like, we could already have a couple of those on our books now, like the ones you've just mentioned who've come in this summer. It could be 3-4 years down the line, they're going for 20 million. We don't know. They might be first teamers, they might not be. We got people even like who we like a lot, people like Stefan Basic. It might not quite work for him.
No.
Like, he's got still like 2 more years of development, let's say, before we can see if he's really going to be at a level to be a first team Liverpool player, or he might move for one of those £25 million fees. We don't know yet. The point is that we are bringing through a good wide range of them. You know, a lot of people very, very high on people like Kwanzaa and Bradley. But again, these are players who are just out of their first season. People were saying very similar things about Reece Williams not all that long ago.
Yeah.
Nico
Williams.
Don't want to directly compare. Nico Williams is actually a really good example. Nico Williams is a much better example than Reece Williams, actually, because Reece was like a product of the environment and the circumstance that it was at the time. Nico Williams actually was just a player who just progressed through the youth academy, got his chances because he got better, deserved them, and just wasn't quite where we needed him to be. It could yet happen with a couple of the ones we've got at the minute, but also a couple of them could well go on to be the people like Curtis Jones who have now actually also been and are really, really part of that first team scene. Either way, Liverpool win.
Yeah. Look, it might be a case that Calvin Ramsey has a really, really strong loan with Wigan this year. And that next summer, someone comes knocking and says, we'll give you 25 million for Conor Bradley. And we think, well, you know what? We have Trent, so the path to first choice is blocked. So we'll take that 25 million, but we're going to tack on a sell-on clause as well. And we'll just promote Calvin Ramsey, a player we spent 5 million on, into that backup role. And then 2 years after that, maybe someone comes knocking again and says, we'll give you 25 million for Calvin Ramsey. And we say, great, here you go. Thanks a million. Next man up. Because when you've got the best of the best in a starting position, you can have one of two things in that backup position. You can have an experienced veteran player who's not going to grumble, not going to gripe, a Costas Tsimikas type, if you will, who's going to be happy to be back up for 4 or 5 years, and then you move on and you move him on and you just bring in another one like that. Or you have a young player with really good potential, but whose first team future is not at the club, but he can provide a really strong backup presence for 2 to 3 years, and then you sell him on and you cycle in the next one. And I think ideally that's what Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes would like to do, is that in the positions where we have elite players, behind them we have young players that we're either bringing through our own academy or we're taking from other academies when they're 16, 17, developing them for 2 years out of the spotlight, and then they come into that first team picture as a backup. So, you know, let's just say Amar Ronaldo as an example. So let's just say that next summer we're looking at our situation at centre-back. We've got Ibu, we've got Virgil. They're clearly the starters. Ibu's had a good season fitness-wise. He's committed his future to the club. And we get offered 45 to 50 million for Jarrell Quansah. We might look at that and think, you know what? We might just let him go because he wants to play every week and we can't give him that. But he didn't cost us anything, so we bring in that 50 million and we believe that Amara Nallo is ready to be next man up. It could be 2 years from now. We believe Nallo is ready to be the next man up and we'll look to do the same with him. And that's a very, very good path to sustainability. And yes, it will upset some players because everybody loves to see an academy lad come through and do really well. And no one wants to see someone that's been at the club for a long time leave. Like Quansah's been at the club since he's, 8? So we'd all love to see Jarrell play his whole career out. But it might be that for his career and for the good of the club's financial situation and our ability to go and bring in other players that we might need more, we might decide in 2 years to sell him on if a ridiculous offer comes in that we just can't say no to. And there's no problem with that as long as we're sure that we have the next man up behind them.
Yeah, like this whole situation around the goalkeepers is basically that, but replicated many times over.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, there's been a few little grumblings in the last couple of days that Queeving, there could be some interest in him, obviously, with the window getting close to shutting. And, like, if we sell him, I think we would need to bring in a third choice goalkeeper. But I think Jaros just steps into number 2. And we bring in, like, an experienced older head maybe as the third choice. Someone who's not going to be, expecting to play. Not John Ruddy, but a John Ruddy type. Whoever that might be. Now, the other option will obviously be to put Harvey Davies in, but then if anything happens to Ali, you've only got 2 really young goalkeepers, and that might not be the ideal situation. But we could sell Queeving for 25 million and go and get someone older, more experienced to come in who's just kind of looking for a nice paycheck and a chance to collect a few medals. And we get them for 3 or 4 million and bring them in. And all of a sudden, our goalkeeping situation hasn't really changed because Jaros looks like he's going to be really good. We don't need to buy a number 2. It doesn't make sense to buy a number 2 who's younger because they would come in expecting at some point to become number 1 and we're buying Mamardashvili. So going and getting that older head might be better and we'd make a significant profit on the position. So like all of these things can just lead to us being in a very strong position moving forward where we have our starter to the best possible player available, but unlike, which is very similar obviously to that kind of 18 to 20 team where we had best in class in a whole bunch of positions, but we never had that continuous line coming behind them. That's what the club seemed to be trying to do with both the work that Alex Inglethorpe is doing at the academy and obviously the recruitment that's going on towards the academy that was started by Edwards and Ward the first time around and now looks like they're going to put back in place again. And all of these things lead to a brighter future for the club. They generate money for the club to be able to reinvest back into the first team. And again, if we were to sell Morton and Doak and we've sold the 3 lads that have gone, Clark, Carvalho and Sepp, like I said, that could be 80 million, maybe a little bit more for us this summer. If we were to turn around and let's just say for the sake of arguments, just these 2 names to throw out there, let's say we bought Piero Hincapié for 45 million and let's say we bought Lucas Gornadot, who's not maybe a ready-made 6, but he is a natural 6 and he's got huge potential. And we bought him for 25 million. We've just improved our team because he's better than any 6 we have, even if he's not quite the ready-made one they were looking for. And Hincapié is better than our left-back options. We've improved our team without actually spending any money. In fact, we'll have made profit on that, but we'll be in a much stronger position.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit libertyshield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's just something that we're going to have to accept that, this now new alteration of the squad, the process that we'll be going through is going to be another 2-3 window thing, and then hopefully rolling on from that in terms of just keeping it at the peak and adding 1 or 2 each time. So I think it's fine. Like I think we've already shown that we can already see around the rest of the Premier League, others are not catching us up at such a rate of knots, so we're going to be out of the running. And I don't see that even with Gundogan coming back. He's fine. He's a good player. He'll fit Man City really well. I don't think it's a signing that just leaps them away from us so far that we're not going to be able to pull any kind of...
Well, they lost Julian Alvarez.
Yeah.
And no one seems to have noticed. They sold Julian Alvarez, who was absolutely vital to them the last 2 years, filling in here, there, and everywhere, providing a brilliant substitute for Haaland, goals and assists galore. He's gone now. They haven't replaced him. They're rumoured to be looking at Kyogo from Celtic, who's a good player. He's not nearly as good as Alvarez, and he needs shoulder surgery, which could keep him out for months. So, even with Gundogan coming in, he's a year older now, and he's probably slowed down a decent amount based on what we saw last year. He didn't look like the player he was the year before at City. They've brought Savinho in. How much he'll play is anybody's guess. He's a good player, no question. Obviously, he started the first game, but Phil Foden is going to be starting. And I have to imagine either Doku or Grealish starts on the wing that's not Foden. And Savinho's kind of the third or fourth winger. So I think they might be as good as last year. I don't think they've gotten better. They might have gotten worse. I think they've probably gotten a bit worse. Arsenal have improved a bit. Calafiori's a really good signing, and I like Mikel Moreno. But while Moreno might play as the 6, and that would improve their midfield a bit, it's not like they've gone and signed an elite level 6 to come into that team. It's not a huge improvement on Thomas Partey or Jorginho. And Calafiori's coming into a position where they're already really strong. As good as he is, last season they had Zinchenko and Tomiyasu. Julian Timber obviously missed the season injured, but they had him there as well as an option when he came back. Defence wasn't an issue for them. They've strengthened their strength and fair play to them, but it's definitely going to cause some issues there with players demanding minutes. I don't see a huge improvement in Arsenal in the areas that they needed to improve, which was their ability to really break down a defence at 0-0. Because you look at Arsenal's goals last year, how many of them were set pieces? And then how many of them were opening goal set pieces? And then they could sit that bit deeper and invite you on a bit, and then they just kill you on the counter-attack. But if they can't find that opening goal, they do tend to get quite frustrated with themselves. And it's not like they've brought in a cutting-edge number 9. They haven't brought in somebody that's going to offer them a huge upgrade in attack. Now, maybe Martinelli gets back on track this year and takes a step forward. Maybe Havertz with a full year as a 9 improves as well. But that was the biggest issue for Arsenal last year, and they haven't addressed it. And I don't think they're going to be able to address it because They had to sell or get the deal agreed with Emile Smith-Rowe before they could bring in Calafiori. They've had to get a deal agreed for Nketiah before they can bring in Moreno. I don't know what else they've got that they can sell, because Ramsdale looks like it'll be a loan with an obligation. So they're spending a bit of money to bring in a goalkeeper. Nobody seems to want Reece Nelson. And what else do they really have to sell? Jakub Kivor? The last offer they got was a loan with an obligation to buy from an Italian club that has no intention of ever taking up that obligation, because we know that they don't. 26 games. 26 games, and then we'll make it an obligation. He's played 25 on him in the reserves. We went through that with Aquilani over a decade ago, where he went on loans with options that could become obligations, and his minutes would be managed to the second, so they didn't trigger. And the Italian clubs still do that because they're smart. But I don't see either of them moving away from us.
True. No, I don't either. But maybe while we're on the subject of Arsenal, Kivio, and Serie A, what did you make of this week's rumours of Ademola Lookman and us being interested and Arsenal being interested in exchange for Kivio and money? I should say.
I could see it making sense for Arsenal from a one out, one in type of thing, because there's no minutes now for Kivior, because he's obviously a left-footed centre-back that can also play left-back. But now they've brought in Calafiori, who's just a much better version of him. So I could see that making sense. When you look at their forward options, I suppose Lookman can play both sides. He's an upgrade on Reece Nelson. And Trossard, I think, is like 30 now, 31 maybe. And he's probably a little bit of an upgrade on him. But he's not a £70 million footballer or €70 million footballer. I don't think. He's had 2 good seasons with Atalanta. But he's also almost 27 years of age. It's not like he's 21, 22, and he's put these years together.
Yeah, it is a prime signing if anybody goes for him and gets him. This is how good he is.
This is how good he's going to be. Or at least this is how good he is in Serie A. But that doesn't always translate back to England.
He has, I would probably say, as a bigger plus point probably from Arsenal's perspective than Liverpool's. He has played quite a lot of centre forward as well, for Nigeria as well as.
So he could play across the line for them.
Yeah, and also Trossard, despite being the greyest man on earth since Fabrizio Ravanelli, is only 29.
He is he?
Yeah, he's just not very good.
He must have had a paper round in like Chernobyl or somewhere, because he just looks very old. I could see it making sense for Arsenal, but not at the price that's been touted. I
mean, it was a lot lower in some of the later reports from, I think it was Germany, bizarrely, I'm not really sure why, that they were saying sort of around the €40 million mark, whereas in Italy the earliest ones were like 75, which is just way, way, way beyond what you should.
I mean, if you could do it for Kivior on 15, fair enough.
Yeah.
Kivior on 20 even, fair enough. Especially because you could probably sell Reece Nelson for 15, and then you haven't spent a whole lot, and when you put them on your books and amortize them across, you come out ahead. But yeah, for that I could see it. I don't see it making sense for us at all, because I mean he could be your Mo backup, but I mean I wouldn't. I think he is better off the left, and I don't think he's better than the left wingers we have. As frustrating as they can both be, Cody and Lucho, I don't think he's better than them. So, for me, it would be a pass. I wouldn't have much interest. Now, the world's greatest Tier 1 reporter, Peter Rourke, has today said that we are considering a move for Kavicha. Now, obviously, you file it away with things like the earth is flat and stuff like that, but I would take Kavicha because he is a legitimate upgrade on what we have. And even just for this season, if we didn't sell one of the forwards, you could just look at it and say, right, we've got Darwin and Jota as our 9s. We've got Mo and Harvey as our right-sided players. Dominic and Cody as our 10s. And we've got Kavicha and Diaz as our left wingers. And next summer we'll move Diaz on and we'll start to do other things. But he represents a significant upgrade for us. So that's a deal I would make, even though it's not a position of need. He, for me, is the best possible left winger we could buy. So I would say, even though it's not a position of need, go and do it and then figure out the logjam that you might have at a later point.
I would agree in playing terms, but I think the big problem there is if you sign Kvaratskhelia and Georgi Mamardashvili, you're going to have to build another 100,000 seats in Anfield because you have to get all the noise of all the Georgians who will come over and just encapsulate it in the stadium. So it's not just a deal to sign a winger. You've got to build another half stadium on top of what we've already got.
Yeah, absolutely worthwhile. Bring in all them mad Georgians. Lunatics. Do you know what's great as well? We should sign the two of them. We should sign Ende Ashime, the defensive midfielder from Nice, and have the hardest group of players to spell their names in the league. Anyone else out there with a mad old surname, get him signed up too. And just annoy the people that... You know the people that to this day still can't spell Martin Skirtle's surname? or Sammy Hippie's surname?
Or Stephen Gerrard.
Or Stephen Gerrard?
Gerrard, John Anarissa.
John Anarissa was a good one, yeah. Jibril Sissi. The people that struggled with those, just their heads would just be spinning at the likes of Mamardashvili and Kvaratskhelia and the Ashime. It would just be brilliant. Even Brian and Bo, bring in him as well and watch them get confused with the M and the B. But yeah, I mean, Lookman, I think he's a good player. I do like him as a player. But for me, if I look at the Premier League, like, he's a player that West Ham should sign. Or Fulham should sign. You know, that kind of mid-table ambitions of Europe type of teams. I don't think he's a starter for a team with title ambitions in the Premier League. I think he'd be a good backup, but we don't need to sign a backup, and we're certainly not going to spend 50 or 60 million, or if even 45 million on a backup. I just don't see that happening under the likes of Edwards and Hughes.
Do we expect those moving off transfers and on to more immediate matters, although only just immediate, I suppose, since transfers literally has to happen next week and not all, that we expect to see any changes? Or do you think these early couple of games are just minutes in the first teamers and then we'll see how we change? Because that's what it seemed like with a lot of the higher up teams and managers this week, or last week, I should say, for game week 1.
Yeah, I think it's... Look, at this point of the season, it's just about getting your legs under you, isn't it? Like, it's just about getting off to a good start, feeling comfortable about the season. And obviously, you've still got chopping and changing that's going to take place because of getting, like you say, getting a wide variety of players some minutes in their legs. Or you might have a player that wants to leave and therefore his head isn't quite in the game, or whatever the situation is, might be a player that arrives in. So there will be some changing across the board, I think. I think that you might get a situation where there's a club that has a player who's maybe wanting to go because he doesn't feel like he's going to get enough football. And the manager might just say, look, I'm going to put him in for this one just to kind of give him the nod. Look, you are going to get minutes. I'll find minutes for you. So he plays him in this match week coming up, and then just bins him back onto the bench the following week because the window's closed now, and we'll worry about you again in January.
The only ones I could really see changes Liverpool-wise in terms of this coming weekend, obviously one at centre-back, and barring any injuries that we've heard about, Diaz. But even that, I wouldn't say it was like a likely thing that Gakpo comes in to start.
Yeah, I think from the team that played against Ipswich, Ibu comes in for Quansah. I think that would be the case even if Quansah wasn't carrying a knock. I think Ibu was just a lot better second half than Jarrell was first half. Gakpo for Diaz is certainly one I think that's worth consideration. Though I don't think Diaz played badly against Ipswich. He had the bad miss, obviously, but I thought his overall play was very good. The final decision-making is still about as erratic as watching frogs swim. But, I mean, there's still enough of a player there. And when he arrived with us first, his decision-making was actually something that we used to compliment. The only other one, and this would be a case of there's a player who's considering his future, but we want to keep him, and the manager maybe decides to put him in the team to show him, look, you definitely have a role to play here, is maybe Joe Gomez. Robbo was rotten against Ipswich. And I think there's a possibility Joe gets a nod, but it's not a big one. I just think it's something that they might consider. If they want to keep Joe around and show him, look, you can be part of the first team picture here. There is a position here for you.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.